Aston Villa had been silent on the European stage since their golden era back in 1982, when they won the European Cup. They returned to the Champions League for the first time since it was rebranded in 1992, marking their long-awaited comeback to Europe's top stage. And what a comeback it was, reaching the quarter-finals in their very first campaign. Unai Emery's side secured 8th place in the league phase, guaranteeing a spot in the round of 16, where they showed no mercy to Club Brugge, cruising through with a 6-1 aggregate. On the other hand, Paris Saint-Germain had a rough start. After winning just one of their first 5 games, they came dangerously close to falling outside the top 24. From that point to here, who would have thought? Back then, barely anyone would have believed PSG would end up reaching the final. Fortunately, PSG won their final 3 group matches, finishing 15th and setting up a playoff clash with Brest. For Brest, it was a nightmare draw. As if their annual punishment in League One from PSG wasn't enough, they were thrashed again, conceding 10 goals over 2 legs and exiting the tournament in brutal fashion. That round felt more like a walkover for the Parisian Giants. But the round of 16 brought a much tougher test. Liverpool, who had already clinched the Premier League title early in the season, topped the Champions League phase as well. Except for a match against PSV, in which they rotated heavily. The Reds had won every game and were among the favourites for the trophy. In the first leg at Parc des Princes, they pulled off a miraculous win, thanks to an 87th-minute goal from Harvey Elliott. Liverpool's goalkeeper Alisson Becker had a legendary night, making 9 saves and proving once again that he is one of the best in the world. In the return leg at Anfield, it was Gianluigi Donnarumma's turn to shine. After Dembele equalised the tie for PSG, the match went to penalties. The Italian keeper saved spot kicks from Nunez and Jones, sending PSG through to the quarter-finals. The PSG-Aston Villa quarter-final was also a reunion of 2 Spanish tacticians, Luis Enrique and Unai Emery, who had faced off 8 years earlier in the now iconic PSG versus Barcelona tie. The first leg took place in France. PSG's ultras, Virage Auteuil, designed a choreo inspired by the popular British series Peaky Blinders, featuring a skeleton wearing a flat cap under a banner that read, "By order of the Paris SG supporters." Villa fans mocked the display all night on X with comments like, "Is this a Netflix teaser?" The match started exactly the way the English side would have hoped. In the 35th minute, Morgan Rogers gave Aston Villa the lead. But PSG's pressure was mounting with every passing moment, and Villa's goalkeeper Emiliano Martinez was barely holding on. To make things worse, the French fans hadn't forgotten the 2022 World Cup final and relentlessly booed him throughout the night. Then came PSG's 19-year-old star, Desire Doue. He picked up the ball on the left flank, nudged it 3 times to his right, and unleashed a stunning strike to equalise. It was, without a doubt, one of the most spectacular goals of the season. So tell us, what was your favourite goal this year? Doue's goal didn't just level the score, it lit a fire under PSG. Riding that momentum, they found another stunner early in the second half through new signing Kvaratskhelia. As extra time approached, Aston Villa, having faced nearly 30 shots, was likely content with a 2-1 scoreline. But in the 92nd minute, Nuno Mendes added one more wonder goal to seal the night, delivering a brutal psychological blow to their opponents. For the return leg, the English welcomed their visitors with banners reading, "This is Villa Park," flanked by Lions symbols. Yet again, it was the away side who struck first. In the 12th minute, Achraf Hakimi punished a glaring error by Martinez. By the 27th, Nuno Mendes had doubled the lead. Luis Enrique's tactical use of his fullbacks was leaving Villa's defence completely exposed. At that point, most expected the match to spiral into a rout, but Emery's men, backed by their home crowd, had other plans. Just before halftime, a deflected shot from Tielemans found the net and shifted the momentum ever so slightly. In the 55th minute, Captain McGinn stepped up with a screamer, reviving Villa with a metaphorical jolt to the heart. Just 2 minutes later, longtime Villa Park soldier Ezri Konsa latched onto a silky run and assist from Marcus Rashford, completing the turnaround, 3-2. Suddenly, the match had caught fire. Aston Villa needed just one more goal to tie the aggregate score, and they had more than enough chances. But luck wasn't on their side. Donnarumma, after conceding 3, switched back into invincible mode. The match ended 3-2 and PSG advanced. After the final whistle, Luis Enrique said, "Even when we were trailing, we never abandoned our identity. In the semi-final, there will be no calculations. We'll keep attacking, because attacking is our only weapon. Since being taken over by Qatari owners in 2011, Paris Saint-Germain has tried just about everything to win the Champions League. Astronomical transfer fees, star-studded squads, elite managers, yet the closest they came was the final they lost in 2020. And perhaps that's the beauty of this game. If success could be guaranteed simply by buying the best players money can get, wouldn't everything become a bit too easy? In the summer of 2022, the French giants began a new chapter with the appointment of Luis Campos as strategic advisor. For those unfamiliar, Campos was the architect behind Lille's title-winning squad in 2021. Since his arrival, PSG stopped chasing the next Neymar, Messi, or Mbappe. Yes, they still outspend many of their rivals, but now they spend more wisely. Take, for instance, their midfield trio: Vitinha, Fabian Ruiz, and João Neves, a €120 million project. On paper, that lineup may not have thrilled many, but Campos not only signed those players, he also appointed the right man to coach them. And thanks to that, the belief that PSG now has the best midfield in the world is becoming more and more widespread. This is where success in football often stems from, not buying the best, but building what will become the best. Everyone knew Kylian Mbappe dreamed of playing for Real Madrid. Instead of facing that reality, PSG extended his stay by making him richer, keeping him for 2 more years. But in the end, Mbappe still left. Sometimes, even if a player is the best in the world, saying goodbye is necessary if he no longer wants to play for you. Whoever is meant to leave will eventually go. But in the end, every team steps onto the pitch with 11 players. And what matters is going out there with 11 who truly want to be there. In a twist of fate, while Mbappe, driven by dreams of lifting the Champions League and winning the Ballon d'Or, joined Real Madrid only to see them exit in the quarter-finals, the team he left behind, PSG, would now face Arsenal, the very side that knocked Madrid out. I've talked plenty about Luis Campos, but there's another Luis to mention, Luis Enrique. Let's be honest, many of us never believed in some of the things he did. Chief among them, the idea that Ousmane Dembele could thrive as the focal point of the attack in this team. Since his days at Dortmund, Ousmane Dembele had been seen as a player unlikely to ever fulfill his potential, held back by recurring injuries and confidence issues. Despite being two-footed, his finishing had always been inconsistent. The fact that he scored only 6 goals in 42 appearances during his first season at PSG seemed to confirm those doubts, but this is where a manager can make all the difference. Some players perform at their best regardless of the circumstances, while others need special attention. The specific role and belief a coach assigns to a player can help them rebuild their self-confidence and push past their limits. While all this was unfolding in Paris, Arsenal's story followed a sadly familiar script, one of injuries, more injuries, and then some more. The Gunners went into nearly every match of the season with at least 5 absentees. In the semi-final, the missing names included Jorginho, Calafiori, Gabriel Magalhaes, Gabriel Jesus, Kai Havertz, and Tomiyasu. The deadlock at the Emirates was broken as early as the 4th minute, and the goal scorer was none other than Ousmane Dembele, netting his 33rd goal across all competitions this season. Right before the goal, PSG had completed 26 consecutive passes, a record for this season's Champions League. Dembele dropped deep to link the play, then drifted into the edge of the box to finish with his left foot. For Luis Enrique, it must have been a proud moment, a reflection of his vision come to life. In the second half, Arsenal seemed to have found the equaliser through a set piece, but VAR ruled it out. And truthfully, they looked short of ideas against PSG. When they did create chances, Donnarumma stood firm. With a 1-0 win at the Emirates, PSG had taken a major step towards the final. Before the second leg, Mikel Arteta said, "We came to Paris to win. We want to write history." But what unfolded at Parc des Princes was a story that closely resembled the first leg. In the 27th minute, Fabian Ruiz scored a goal. But what stood out just as much as the finish was his feint, a sublime chest control to glide past Martinelli. PSG missed a penalty in the 69th minute and could have sealed the tie with a much bigger scoreline, but they squandered multiple chances. Just 2 minutes after the missed penalty, Achraf Hakimi made a striker's run from the right flank and curled in a brilliant shot to kill the game. Saka pulled one back in the 76th, but it only served to set the final score. PSG booked their place in the final with a clear and deserved win. After the match, Arteta said, "I'm 100% sure there wasn't a better team than us in the tournament. We deserved much more over both legs. Donnarumma was the best player in both games." To which Luis Enrique responded, shortly and sharply, "In football, superiority is measured by goals." What to expect from a Champions League final is rarely clear. Most of the time, teams approach the match more cautiously than usual, and for good reason. What's at stake is the most prestigious trophy in European club football. The fact that the previous 5 finals saw just 6 goals in total is proof enough, but this one wouldn't follow that trend, because Paris Saint-Germain would make Inter regret ever setting foot in Germany. And really, there's no better way to put it, PSG steamrolled Inter, delivering the most lopsided win in Champions League final history. From the moment the match kicked off, it was clear PSG was about to make this night unforgettable. In the 12th minute, following a tiki-taka attack straight out of a poem, Desire Doue picked out his right back with a clever assist. It was a former Inter player who broke the deadlock, and this goal signalled the start of a long and punishing night for Inter. Just 8 minutes later, Doue got on the score sheet himself, capitalising on Dembele's pass with a bit of luck to beat Summer. When Vitinha split the defence with a perfectly weighted through ball, Doue exploded onto it with blistering pace. It was showtime for the 19-year-old Frenchman, and it wasn't just goals and assists that defined his performance. His reading of the game, smart distribution, and relentless off-the-ball movement that constantly disrupted Inter's backline made him the driving force behind PSG's attacking rhythm. Kvara's 4th goal was a reward for that boundless energy, and Mayulu's 5th in the 86th minute turned the spectacle into a record-breaking night. But this historic victory was more than a scoreline. It was the resolution of a long-standing impasse for Paris Saint-Germain. Since Nasser Al-Khalifi purchased the club in 2011, they had won Ligue 1 11 times in 13 seasons. By then, winning the French league meant little to the club's ambitions. There was only one thing everyone truly desired, that most prestigious trophy. In pursuit of that goal, PSG's star-studded signing list over the years was staggering. Neymar, Messi, Mbappe, Ibrahimovic, Thiago Silva, Cavani, Di Maria. But for most of that time, this glittering cast was far from being a real team. Paris became the most striking example that success can't be bought. In 13 years, they spent a total of €2,280,000,000 on 202 players. That colossal investment spoke volumes about their obsession with the Champions League. But it wasn't just about the money. It was the trophies they didn't win in return. And the disappointment grew just as big as the spending. Of the 13 seasons, they missed out on the league title just twice, and even those were cases of poetic irony. The first came in 2017, when Monaco stunned Europe. That season saw a young superstar emerge and light up the continent, Mbappe, supported by names like Fabinho, Bernardo Silva, Radamel Falcao, and Thomas Lemar. They left the billion-euro project behind and carved their names into history. The mastermind behind that squad? Sporting director Luis Campos. The second title PSG lost was in 2021, snatched away by Lille. Yes, that modest Lille team with Burak Yilmaz, Jonathan David, Mike Maignan, and Renato Sanchez. And guess what? That Lille squad was also built by Luis Campos. In other words, the very man responsible for PSG not fully dominating France was, ironically, Luis Campos himself. So naturally, the question arose, what if Campos came to the capital? Could he finally win the trophy that billions couldn't buy? When Campos took over PSG's recruitment strategy, the spending didn't necessarily shrink, but it became far more intelligent. This season, they made just 4 signings: Kvicha, Kvara, Willian Pacho, Desire Doue, and Joao Neves, one of whom arrived in January. All 4 started the final. Compared to the likes of Messi, Neymar, and Mbappe, these names might not scream superstardom, but they were proper team players. And for the first time, PSG evolved from a collection of superstars into a real, cohesive unit. But none of this would have worked without the man who brought Campos' vision to life on the pitch, Luis Enrique. The Spanish manager's philosophy at PSG wasn't just a tactical shift, it was a profound, soulful reimagining of the game. Despite the immense grief of losing his daughter in 2019, Enrique clung to football, and the strength he showed in life found its way into the dressing room too. His leadership wasn't just about tactics, it was about resilience, courage, and purpose. There were no fixed roles in Enrique's system. Every game, every phase, the shape would shift. A left-back could suddenly become a centre-back, the right-back would drift into midfield, wingers would cut inside to join the passing carousel, and the number 9 would drop deep to link play. It was a complex, fluid machine, yet beautifully organised. It overwhelmed even the best. Liverpool, champions of the so-called toughest league in the world, and runners-up Arsenal had no answer. PSG's interconnected players played with total freedom, constantly moving, constantly evolving, redefining the game itself. The long wait was over. With Luis Campos's intelligent squad building and Luis Enrique's revolutionary vision, Paris Saint-Germain achieved a triumph the likes of which we had never seen before. That 5-0 final transformed a decade-long question, why can't they do it, into a jaw-dropping realization. Wait, was it really that easy? When you're certain you've made the right decisions, it's no longer about winning, it's about waiting. And waiting is often the hardest part, waiting for the right place, the right time, or sometimes the right people. Want more football stories that go beyond the pitch? Like, subscribe, and stay tuned.